who amongst his entourage does Putin listen to the most? Who is the most influential in terms of his decision and why in current period of war?
How Putin has said himself, he listens to only to one person, is Mahatma Gandhi, and because he has nothing to talk with besides him. But speaking seriously, obviously he does listen to Ushakov, Lavrov, and others, but their opinions are not as authoritative as one may guess. He thinks that he knows everything best of everybody, and that he can make all the decisions all by himself. And his contacts with his inner circle, they're mainly, just to convince them that the boss is always right.
What is happening inside the political, business, and military establishment of Russia right now? What is the biggest challenge for them, and what are they talking about?
I think that everybody is pretty tired of this war, and they are tired of sanctions, they are tired of all the inconveniences that are caused by this war. But at the same time, they're very frustrated by the fact that they can do nothing about it because it's too dangerous. And that's why it's kind of safer for everybody to sit tight and suffer, but without speaking out and doing something to stop the war. But nevertheless, the pressure it's like almost invisible, but Putin definitely feels the pressure coming from those circles. They're trying to persuade the boss to make the right decision. They are always bringing his attention to problems in the economy, problems with demography, problems of other nature, but all very, very, very cautiously so that he would not become angry with them.
We have heard a lot about alleged war between army and FSB. Is it true? If it is, how it looks like?
It's a long tradition. It was always like this, and it was always actually promoted from the very top of the country, because that's how it was in the Soviet times. The leadership felt safer, so that FSB, at that time KGB, was looking very critically and very thoroughly of everything that was going on in the military. The military, in retaliation, were looking at FSB. They both were also in conflicting relationship with the police and just traditional law enforcement units. So they are supposed to fight with each other. And there are right now at least 5 different services in Russia, which are in a very conflicting relationship, and Putin is getting reports from all of them, criticizing each other and exposing weaknesses of other services. That's the way he governs the country.
Is it dangerous for Putin? This situation is dangerous for Putin?
Vice versa. For him, it would be dangerous when they would be all aligned. That would be really dangerous, because then they can make all the decisions they want. Right now, when they are conflicting, they are balancing each other. And as I'm always saying, Putin totally destroyed all the institutions inside the country, even the institution of presidency. And he himself is the system of checks and balances. So he exercises this approach against all the security forces as well.
What other clans are fighting amongst themselves in Russia?
Well, there is obviously money and influence, as always. It's nothing new, and I think it's the same thing as it happens in all other countries. It's just the question of means, the question of tools that they are using. They are very much different, because they have no longer means of just normal political competition available for them. It's as once Mr. Churchill has said that in Russia it's always the fight of bulldogs under the carpet, and the carpet is once again in place. And the bulldogs are fighting there to the benefit of Vladimir Putin and his regime.
What is real situation with oil industry in Russia? How Kremlin is going to figure this out?
In terms of production, I would say it's pretty stable. Unfortunately, I would say that there was a slight decrease in the production, but it's insignificant. I think that can be very much discarded. It's very adaptive. It's been controlled by the state, but it behaves like it is private, and that's why it's extremely adaptive in terms of changing economic conditions and export restrictions and the sanctions and everything, because many of the top managers of even like formerly state-owned oil enterprises like Rosneft, they benefit personally from what the company is doing, and so they find ways how to bypass the sanctions. It's slightly worse in the downstream side of the business, in the refineries, because they are under permanent attacks from Ukraine, and many of the companies suffered quite a lot in terms of damages that were caused by those attacks. But still, they are not critical, and we can remember the times of World War II, when it took many years of very heavy air attacks by the Allied forces to actually create a serious deficit of oil products in the internal German market. Russia is very far from being there still.
How do you see current strategy of Kremlin? What Putin desires to achieve within half a year, for instance?
I think his strategy is very much can be described with a very well-known Russian saying: "You fight today, I die tomorrow." So he thinks that obviously the situation in Russia is not ideal, but it's better than it is in Ukraine. And his strategy is to play on the war fatigue, primarily in European Union and in the United States, but in Ukraine as well. And he understands that he is running out of his human resources, but Ukraine is running out even quicker. That he's running out of money, but again, Ukraine is running out of funding even quicker, and it's very much dependent on the outside help. That's why he thinks that with all the bluffs and threats and games that he's playing with Americans and with Europeans, they at one point stop supporting Ukraine at the scale it was happening before, and then he can grab the country to his benefit. As a plan B, he's obviously exercising the so-called negotiations with the United States. It's not that he genuinely believes that these negotiations can actually come to a certain resolution, but who knows? Maybe they will, and he's trying to solve with diplomacy what he couldn't achieve at the field of battle.
Putin said that he's ready for war with Europe. What do you think this war could be, and what could it look like?
Well, first of all, obviously, he is just threatening at the moment, and he's threatening exactly for the reason I just said, that he wants Europe to stay back and to stop supporting Ukraine, because he understands that Ukraine very much holds because of European funding. Europe playing not that important role in terms of military aid, but it plays critical role of supporting Ukrainian finances. So that's what Putin tries to solve with this. But I really think that Eastern Europe is next. And I think that after the situation with Ukraine for Putin would be resolved in one way or another, doesn't matter how. In particular, I think that he would, in a very short period of time, attack Eastern Europe, because at the end of the day, his end game is to make NATO collapse, and he wants to provoke Eastern Europeans to invoke Article 5, to call for Article 5, and be denied because nobody wants to go at war with the nuclear superpower, military superpower the Russia still is, and because of this, to show that NATO is no longer an efficient defensive alliance. That's, I think, is his goal, and that's why I think that we all need to understand that the only way the war can be stopped is with removing Putin from Kremlin. As long as he's there, the war will continue.
Under what circumstances Putin will be ready to impose general mobilization, and what consequences can it lead to?
I don't think that he would invoke general mobilization in the foreseeable future. I think that he understands that this move would be vastly unpopular inside the country. It was already a lot of social disappointment and pushback when he pretty cautiously started doing this back in 2022. But the only way it may actually happen if he would run out of mercenaries, because his current records, they should be classified as mercenaries. They are coming to the army to fight for money. But still, right now, there are people who are coming because Russians live very poorly in misery. And that's why this money that is being offered for them as a compensation for the military service, for many families, it's like a salvation. And many families, especially from the rural areas where they have several kids, they kind of ready, as awful as it sounds, to sacrifice one of their sons in the sake of the well-being of the whole family.
Some experts explain warm relations between Trump and Putin because Russia has compromising material about Donald Trump. Russian intelligence allegedly has materials about Trump's visit to Moscow in 80s and 90s when Trump wasn't a politician but a businessman. Do you know anything about it? And is Trump really Agent Krasnov?
I don't believe in this. And look, if one can look at the American political situation, what kind of compromise can exist against Trump? What would we know that we don't know already? Come on, he was tried for sexual innuendos and for lying and for non-paying taxes and for whatever other reasons you can think of. American people like him for a different reason, because they like him for being against the system, and so I don't think that Kremlin can publish something that would be like an eye opener that Americans would say, "Oh wow, this is something that we didn't know before." So no, I don't think that Kremlin has any leverage on Trump like this. I think that the influence is coming from the different aspect. Trump really genuinely wants to be the peacemaker. He's more on Ukrainian side than on Russian side. At least he understands that he cannot afford such a peace deal that would make Ukraine look like it lost the war. But at the same time, he is in a hurry, and that's the main leverage against Trump by Putin. Trump wants to get this Nobel peace prize, and he understands that his time is running out. That's very limited, and that's why he is doing everything possible to make it happen as soon as possible, and that's what seriously affects his maneuver in terms of negotiations with Putin. Putin sees the softness. He perfectly understands this leverage, and being a very experienced KGB officer, experienced in negotiations, he is using this leverage to his benefit. But it's not because Trump is pro-Russian. He is not. He's pro-American.
Ilya, thank you very much for this interview, and have a good day.
Thank you very much. Always pleasure talking to you.